Suzanne Hume is the educational director and founder of cleanearthforkids.org, a multi-generational nonprofit organization working for a better, happier, healthier future. Their volunteer, intern, and collaboration opportunities. People select what they'd like to work on in the time that they have available. cleanearthforkids.org's mission is to protect children's health and future and public and worker health and safety, clean air and water, streams, rivers, oceans, public lands, forests, trees, wildlife, ecosystems, climate, healthy soils and food, non-toxic playgrounds, parks, schools, gardens, and products. Environmental, racial, social, climate, educational justice, and JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion are at the heart of the organization. There are 6 teams: climate action, public lands, wildfire parks, clean air, hashtag kids breathe here, hashtag water life, hashtag protect water, stop toxic pesticides and chemicals, zero waste, and skip plastics. And I think that Suzanne is one of the busiest people I've ever met in my life. So thank you for being here, Suzanne, and you're welcome to share your screen.
Okay, thanks so much. John will be sharing the screen and the slides and putting some links in the chat for you guys. So thanks again for having me here. So excited. So as Ruth said, and thank you, Ruth, for that great introduction and talking about our mission. So I'd like to say that our time is short today, but the last Thursday of the month at 5:30, we have a panel discussion, and it's usually an hour. You're welcome to hop on and off. And this month, we will be talking about, so it's next Thursday at 5:30, we're going to be talking about the harms of synthetic turf, plastics, PFAS, which is PFAS, which we'll talk about a little bit today, phthalates and lead, and how they harm children's health and development and future. And we'll talk about some actions that you can take. We'll go over these today as well and put some links in the chat, and I can answer some questions in the time we have available. And as Ruth said, if you have any extra time or would like to collaborate, or if the league would like to write some support letters, that would be very helpful. So thanks again, Ruth, for talking about our mission. Yes, environmental justice is at the heart of all that we do. So excited to be here today. So in San Diego County, we have some things that are important to all of us that we need to work on. So our air is in trouble, as you know. So we have an F in ozone and an F in particulate matter for the 24-hour. And also the American Lung Association does a state of the air report and talks about the air quality all over, as you know, the United States. And this is a racial justice, a social justice, a climate issue, an environmental justice issue. As you know, people of color are 3 times more likely to live in a county that failed the air quality grades that we had shared earlier. And so also you can help us on a federal level. The United States needs to adopt the World Health Organization clean air guidelines. And these were adopted in 2021. Our air, like I said, is in trouble. And there are things that you can do, actions you can take for here in San Diego, at the state of California, and also for the United States. And we work internationally with Mums for Lungs and lots of other organizations across the world, and so excited to collaborate and work together. So there are actions that you can take, and hopefully this will be put into the chat. Hopefully John can do that, great. So I'll just start with a quick action that you can take for Oceanside. So hopefully the league will be able to write some letters, some very important support letters on 8 action items, and that you yourselves will be able to do this. I started Cleaners for Kids because I was poisoned by toxic pesticides that are banned in other countries that are being used on a tomato field 100 feet, about 100 feet from where people live on 3 sides. So 100 feet here, there, and there. And so I was very sick, and realized that there's not enough people at all working on toxic chemicals and pesticides. And there wasn't a lot of understanding about how healthy soils absorb more carbon and things that we can do to help promote a healthy climate. And it all comes down to these important actions that you can take, not just at the state level, like through California Air Resources Board and SEAC. Our friend Ruthie is a part of SEAC as well, stopping toxic chemicals from gas-powered engines that help our climate, but these also protect our air and protect us from toxic chemicals. So in the city of Oceanside, we need an unleaded fuel tank at the airport because little bits of dust, lead dust, are going everywhere, right? Because there's not an unleaded fuel tank. So we absolutely need your help to protect children's brains and development because there's no safe level of lead. Lead is as you know, lead is a neurotoxin, and it's really serious. So we have other actions also to take in terms of Oceanside, very important things going on. But also on here, actions that you can take. We're going to talk a little bit about synthetic turf and plastic grass and why this is harmful. And so if you are on our page, multitasking, on actions you can take with cleanersforkids.org, there should be a link in the chat. You can see, you probably looked at the action about Oceanside and scroll down. And then after that, you probably saw or can see this action to ask the Department of the Interior, so this is federal, to not allow synthetic turf in the America the Beautiful Plan 30 by 30. And so for this action, we'd like to send a message to the Secretary of the Interior, or the Department of the Interior Secretary, Deb Haaland. Unfortunately, when this 30 by 30 plan was being talked about, a person working in the government said the words from synthetic turf to grasslands. So we became really alarmed that our money at a federal level, also California has a 30 by 30 plan, right? And we have plans through San Diego County. There's a group working on this, by the way, that synthetic turf was going to be included. And so for the reasons that you might have seen, I don't know if the link to Team 5 is in the chat yet, but we have Team 5, and it is called Stop Toxic Chemicals and Pesticides. Sorry about that. Okay, right there. And through our work with Team 5, we also have a page called Stop Synthetic Turf. And we give a lot of information and data about why we need to stop synthetic turf. So we know that we're in a drought, and so people might think, oh, I'll just use synthetic turf, plastic grass, right? But this is not a good idea whatsoever. You know it gets hot, right? And needs to be cooled down with water and cleaned with toxic chemicals. So it's not saving water. And little bits of the grass get torn off and they get into our stormwater drains and in our oceans, and obviously toxic chemicals, plastics, phthalates, PFAS, right? PFAS, not good at all. So we know that synthetic turf is just full of toxic chemicals, and we don't want our kids playing on these toxic chemicals. There, again, on our page, there's lots of resources, doctors from Harvard and all kinds of universities, and also our plastics consultant. This is Dr. Sarah Jean Royer, and she works for Scripps Institute of Oceanography in Hawaii. She was here about 2 years ago, I guess, for a while, over a year. And we're so happy that she was able to talk with us. When you watch her TED Talk, Dr. Sarah Jean Royer was the person who figured out that plastic emits methane. So again, this is a climate issue. This is a water issue, synthetic turf, right? This is a racial justice issue because why is it that our kids at different schools that they're attending and where they live have these, instead of having grass and trees, native plants, they are subjected to playing on toxic chemicals. So she's got a nice, she has a nice TED Talk there and has written letters that you'll see that the league could write as well. We have samples from Sierra Club and others to help stop synthetic turf. We were able to stop synthetic turf in the city of Oceanside at 2 I'll just call them family parks, where children play and sit on the grass. We were able to do that, and you'll be able to see a bunch of videos that youth have made. Anyhow, so that plastic grass, obviously, there's just tons of plastic and leachate, and that goes into our environment. And so we know, for some reason, there we go. We know that this isn't good at all, right? And that synthetic turf is not recyclable because of those layers that I showed you earlier. I'm going to show it to you again. Oh, whoops. Can you go back and show the layers? Yeah, okay. So this makes it really hard because of the layers and the way that sand is in there. You can see that it makes it really difficult for synthetic turf to be recycled. So there is one place that does some recycling in Denmark, but the massive amount of the carbon footprint to ship the super heavy synthetic turf field, it just makes this, not okay, not going to happen. Anyway, so, and we know that there are toxic chemicals in synthetic turf. So the reason that synthetic turf has PFAS, PFAS, is because when you cut plastic, it's added so that PFAS, these, class of over 12,000 chemicals found in, waterproofing and this and that and the other. Here, I'm going to move this toolbar, John. Oh, it's not visible. Okay. Sorry about that. So anyway, yeah, so we know that these toxic chemicals and PFAS should not be in our water. They should not be on our children. They should not be on our land. And so the EPA has found recently, this was just a few days ago, that there are 2 of them, 2 PFAS chemicals that they said, there's no safe level. So obviously, I'm sorry. So PFOA, PFOA, and also PFOS. So I'm going to just say that there's been a problem with companies hiding the risks for many years. And you've probably seen Dark Waters, this movie where Mark Ruffalo plays real-life lawyer Rob DeLoe, and talking about PFOA. And, it's kind of sad what happened to that community, but through the brave actions of Rob and his law firm, Taft Law Firm, this was brought to light. And so we have more information now. So also in synthetic turf, phthalates, and we always have to remind everybody the pH is silent in phthalates. I made that mistake at the beginning because again, to join us, you don't need to be a scientist. We know that we have scientists with us today and people that have worked and done important things with air and climate and health and all of that. And your work is so appreciated. And we love to have help. We have consultants that just meet with us from time to time, be able to talk with us about what check in with us and help us, talk to us about toxic chemicals like Dr. Sarah Jean Royer is a consultant. And everyday people, volunteers. I'm not a scientist. As I said, I was a teacher. But we were able to work with stopping phthalates and also PFAS, toxic chemicals at the state of California. So I'll go back just 1 second, and I'm going to show you. Maybe I will. I don't have one slide I wanted to show you yet. Okay, that's okay. So I'll just go back to the PFAS real quick. So with PFAS, we've got some actions you can take that hopefully you've seen that on our page. The link was in the chat. So there are some actions that you can take for the state of California, the United States, and elsewhere about PFAS. So some important bills that are happening with this right now, so that you can probably see on if you're multitasking, AB 1817 to stop PFAS in food packaging, textiles, and fabrics. And these all, I'm going to tell you about three real quick, and they passed the House. So now, or I'm sorry, they passed the Assembly for the state of California, and now we're hoping to help them pass in the Senate. So also PFAS in makeup. So that's AB 2771. And then for PFAS to create a database for PFAS. And this is really important. And we would, again, love help. I can underline that 1,000 times. We would love help. This, for DTSC, it is Department of Toxic Substance Control. And again, I can tell you when the meetings are, and we have a calendar on Cleaner for Kids. You know, if people were there and they could just hop on like an hour a month, or be really helpful if we had a letter from the League of Women Voters, that would be really helpful as well. So we helped, so with this article talking about the EPA finding no safe level of toxic forever chemicals, PFAS, so you can see that PFOS, right? While for the state of California, Cleaners for Kids was the only organization at that hearing in California, and it's on Zoom. And we spoke about why PFOS and PFNA needed to be Prop 65. And that's the first step to getting these toxic chemicals regulated. And so people sent letters in, and that's great, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes there were only 38 letters sent in from the whole state of California. And when we did work to get carpet, including synthetic turf, a priority product in the state of California, I think 31 or 32 of those letters were from us. And then we get a 400-page document from Dow Chemical, right, opposing us. So again, we really need your help. So we've got some toxic chemicals in synthetic turf, and there's some things that we can do and we need to do. The EPA is so far behind. We need to regulate these as a class. There are over 12,000 chemicals that are PFAS, and we do not have time to do one chemical at a time. And that's what that Prop 65, they only look at specific things. So we really need help from the league on not just the state level, the local level, the state level, and the federal level to make some important action on this. So anyway, so back to phthalates. So phthalates also found in synthetic turf. They're plasticizers, and they make everything flexible. So these are very harmful for children's health as well. So if the synthetic turf has, if it's got chrome rubber in it, like most of them do for like sports fields and things. So tires contain 6 ppd, most all of them, right? And old tires have terrible heavy metals in them. Well, tires have heavy metals. It's really sad. And our kids are playing on these. So 6 ppd is found in tires. So, and I'll go back. If crumb rubber infill is used in the synthetic turf, so research has identified over 300 chemicals in the infill, and of these, so far, 52 are classified as carcinogens, and 6 are presumed or suspected carcinogenic, and 197 are likely carcinogens. And because our government works so slowly, we know that this is so understated. We really don't want our kids playing on tires. And again, 6 ppd, we had we attended a congressional hearing that was done by Katie Porter, and this was at the federal level for the resources, the National Resources Committee, and she talked about the harms of 6-PPD, playground equipment, right? And was like, why are kids playing on this? So this was the first time, because we've been talking about this, and finally we're getting some traction. Thank goodness, Surfrider, who we love, and we're a part of Surfrider, who said, yes, the local chapter, we're going to join you with this fight with synthetic turf. We had Sierra Club, like maybe it was a year or so ago, write those letters to help stop synthetic turf in Oceanside. And so we've been talking about this because, you know, we've just been talking about it, and we would just love your help. So 6-PPD is wiping out over 90% of the salmon. So little bits of tire get washed into our water, right? And so because salmon are a keystone species, this is a really big deal. And because they migrate, right, freshwater, ocean, this and that, so wherever the tire is getting, whether it's getting into the rivers or getting into the ocean, it's a problem. So that's why it's really important that we don't allow, or that we stood with communities at the Coastal Commission to stop the driving of these big tires, whatever it's called right now, the off-road vehicles, right? Off-road vehicles on the beaches. They were running over the snowy plover. I can't remember if it was, I'm so sorry, 6 or 8 people were run over and killed. Anyway, so this is the kind of work that we do at Clean Earth for Kids. Our issues that we take on, they do affect climate. They affect toxic chemicals in our water and everything. And we would just love your support. I know I only have a few more minutes, so I'm going to be really quick. So here is Janice, and here's one of the videos on synthetic turf. If you haven't heard her rap, I highly suggest it. So I won't even try to do it. It's at the end. And so this was made and produced by students. We have interns at many schools in California, UCSD, UCLA, Cal State, lots, and SCSU, and then over on the East Coast, like Georgetown, UNC, etc., all kinds of places. But anyway, so you can see them. And then here's a video, and you can see here pictured Kevin. He's a nursing student. And this was a couple of years ago. They look a little older than this now. They're all in college. Kevin is studying to be a nurse. He's on the left, and he's at SDSU. And Hannah is up at Chico, and she is studying parks. And Gabby is studying statistics. So that's just really exciting. And she did many videos. Gabby made and produced many videos. So we know that there has been lead found in synthetic turf. And there's obviously no safe level of lead, as we talked about before. And so we need to do everything that we can to protect our kids from lead, since it gives permanent learning disabilities and behavioral problems, and also harms the body in many ways. We have a page on on Clean Earth for Kids that we can put into the chat, and it's called Get the Lead Out. And you can see actions that we're taking for lead. When they asked us, I'm sorry, not when they asked us, when the synthetic turf manufacturers were at a hearing, they could not claim that synthetic turf was lead-free. You'll hear, oh, we've tested this, it doesn't have PFAS, it doesn't have this and that. But when they're put on and at the stand, right, and they're at a hearing, they cannot say that it is lead-free. So that's that. And we have videos about that too. So also synthetic turf, besides just the exposure to all the toxins, right, the excessive heat. So it gets very, very hot. There's turf burns and risks of MRSA. And so hot, so really hot. Synthetic turf gets hot. It can blister our kids and melt their equipment. And so that's a problem. And recently, UC Davis that had a tried to have graduation on synthetic turf, there were people that were very ill and they could not even continue their graduation. It gets very, very hot. So we know that, again, that these leach, synthetic turf is leaching into our water, and it requires maintenance and weed control, sadly, right? So one of our youth drew a picture of the workers with synthetic turf putting, toxic pesticides underneath the mats because they don't want the weeds to pop through like this. So people say, oh, well, you don't have pesticides. That is not true at all. And the chemicals that they're using, that's just not okay. So people say, well, how do you have natural grass fields? How do you do that? Well, please watch our video. This right here is Chip Osborne, the gentleman on the right-hand side of this. And this was a field in Irvine that was in poor shape. And he fed the soil with natural things that we need to be doing, right? Molasses and humic acid. So when we use when we use synthetic fertilizers, right, and they're not needed for our soil, it's not what our soil needs, then it's a problem. Not only is it harm the water with red tide, right, and problems with our water, but when we use synthetic fertilizers, we're not feeding the soil and the microbes as it needs to be fed. So it's very easy and simple to do a soil test, and our soil is salty because we get a lot of our water from the Colorado, etc. So when I asked the city of Oceanside, they said that is no problem. Cities do soil testing all the time. It's cheap. You can see what the problems are and what is needed to feed the soil. And a quick note about that, also in the city of Oceanside, we stopped all the pesticides in all of the parks because they were still being used. They were not being used in Carlsbad or Irvine or other cities, but it really does matter your zip code, whether these things are used. So we would love help to make sure to get all pesticides out of all parks and toxic chemicals. So like I said, at Cleaners for Kids, we have 6 teams, and people work on whatever they'd like to, as Ruth stated before. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of great things to be working on and all of these things. So I talked before about, your zip code does matter. About how, not just with redlining, but there are environmental justice issues. And synthetic turf is an environmental justice issue. Oh, you're going through the slides real quick. You catch up with me. Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you, John. So your zip code is the most powerful predictor of health and well-being. And so you can see we have a lot of information on our racial justice page, racial and social justice page, and we can put that into the chat as well. We have a water page, and all of these things are very important because we need all of our kids to live and all of our people to live. When I try to advance it, I'll just say it won't advance. I have too much of a light touch. So John's touching it for me. Anyway, so we want to keep our kids away from toxic chemicals, pollution, and as Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And we want to fight for, sorry, I feel a little emotional about this. Whenever I see this, whenever I see this, it just brings me so much hope and joy that every child will have access to clean air. As a person with a lung problem now because I was poisoned by pesticides, I know how scary it is to not be able to get clean air to breathe. So one action in Oceanside, we're trying to stop the wood fire hit at the harbor because it doesn't allow people to have access to public lands because wood smoke is toxic. What a bummer, just like fossil fuels and tobacco. And anyway, so I see this and it gives me a lot of hope and it reminds me of what we're fighting for. So anyway, we're working on a lot of things. Climate action is a big thing. I'd love to talk to you more about the actions that we are taking with other groups as well to make sure that we have really strong action plans in all our cities. Escondido has the highest score. and also for building electrification. You can see this video on the harms of natural gas. And our youth did an amazing job. And as I talked about before, and I'm getting ready to close, the wood smoke emits lead, toxic chemicals, PM 2.5, PM 10, and it's really just a huge problem. Our youth have a video about this as well. Burning 10 pounds of wood in an hour creates the same cancer-causing pHs as 6,000 packs of cigarettes. So coming back to this, it's all about climate action and what can we do and health. So thank you again so much. I'll stop there. I could go on forever, but I'll go ahead and stop there.
Suzanne, thank you. Your passion comes through loud and clear. And
sorry to share my tears.
We appreciate the work that you do. Who's got a question for Suzanne? Rita, do you? I see. Oh, no, that's not. Sorry, I thought your hand was up. Burl?
Is there a bill number for the database for PFAS?
Yes, it is. It's AB 2247.
Thank you.
That's the database. And it should be on our website, Actions You Can Take. Is it the database on there?
That one, I had.
Oh, thank you so much. That database did not get added to Actions You Can Take.
The other two are, but not that.
The other two are. Okay, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. And that's what we need, is when we have anything missing, when there is something we need to be doing, please tell me, because that's the sincerest form of a compliment of like, hey, this is missing, or please work on this. So yes, so that's the bill number. And I apologize, and we will get that on like right now. So sorry about that.
Thank you. Jeannie?
Unmute myself. Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering if you work with the Environmental Health Coalition, and it would seem that your work overlaps. Is there a need for both of you? For both
Yes,
groups?
for sure. So yes. So the Environmental Health Coalition does very important work. They have done this important work for decades, and they have, for example, Diane, who just stepped down as running it to work in, is on CARB. So the reason that and they have worked on lead to get the lead out of candy years ago, and they work with CARB, right, to work for clean air and to regulate this. So we do things a little bit differently. So, and that is, well, first of all, we don't have any paid staff. They have been established and around.
Oh.
But I started Cleaners for Kids because people were not working on toxic chemicals and pesticides. That's why I first started it. And there needed to be a stronger youth component and internships and accessibility for the youth and seniors. We have people in their 80s on our board and very active as well, to be able to take direct action. We are so small in that if we hear about a bill, because I say we have interns everywhere, we can turn around and get that letter written, that letter of support written that day. And perhaps they can as well. I don't know. And I love their work, and we've had them on our panel discussion, and we absolutely support their work and have donated to them and tell everyone about their important work. They are focused very much on a specific area of San Diego, and we are working throughout the state, also in North County, throughout San Diego County, and throughout many states and the federal government. And we work specifically with OEHA, Office of Environmental Health Hazards, and DTSC. And then also like our climate action plans, we work specifically with cities on climate action plans, and school districts. So we have a little bit more freedom, because when you have a larger organization, it's harder to maybe to get some of those things, approval for some of those things. But I do love them, and I think they're awesome. So thank you for shouting them out. I should have done that myself. And there are, really important things going on. But like I said, when I was poisoned with pesticides, I called people, and I found out Beyond Pesticides is located on the East Coast. NRDC has people working on neonics. They're one type of pesticide in Illinois, and they're doing work in California. We need help here in California. And there are California pesticide reforms, and they focus mostly on farm workers, which we do that too. But there is such a need. So we do things a little bit differently than Environmental Health Coalition. But thank you so much for asking that question. And I'll just finish by saying, in our organization, people work directly on policy. And whether you're 14 and have good ideas, or 7 or 80. So it's not an organization where only, that I'm making decisions. It's everybody's making decisions. Everybody's making videos. Everybody's working on stuff. And of course, stuff does need to, I look at it before it goes out, but they're working on policy. And so the internships that we offer are unlike those anybody else I've heard about, because they are working directly on this stuff. And there's just, it's classrooms. I'm a former classroom teacher, and I have a lot of trust in what people do. And then I do look at it, and I'm just like, this is amazing. When you give people opportunities, they'll surprise you with the amazing work that they can do. And they're not scientists. They don't have this background. But, people show up, and we are working for change. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Suzanne, just one more question, maybe, and then we can let you go. But I just wondered if you weighed in the public comment with the city on our local climate action plan, to the point of trying to get some kind of ban on synthetic turf, seeing as how it creates heat and it releases methane and
Yes.
microplastics.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So I'll just say quickly. So yes, in terms of the city, and there is an expert that has calculated the approximate number or amount of synthetic turf in San Diego County, and her name is Diane. So, and why am I not thinking of? We know so many Dianes. Diane's last name Welke. Diane Welke. Okay. So she has that, and again, we're working with people all over. So in terms of banning synthetic turf, okay, so what we did in Millbrae, California, what you do is you get a moratorium on it, right? It's really hard to do it for the people, right, who live there, but in terms of the city, that's a lot easier. So another way we can go through this is water, because you have to have a chain of custody, like with what you throw away. And so synthetic turf, you can't show how this is going to be recycled or where it's going to go. So there's a problem with the chain of custody. So the answer is, we've done some and not enough. We'd love your help and love to collaborate with that.
How about the schools? Do you work with the school districts?
Yes. So what the school districts? So obviously we want schools to have opportunities for kids to play on safe playing fields. And so people say, well, how do you do that? How do you replace the turf when it's torn, if it's raining? What do you do about this? So there are people, safe, healthy playing fields that's on the East Coast, and they have some people here, in which Diane Wilkie is a board member of that, have a lot of resources about the specifics with that also. And they're a trusted source. There's people that work in NIH there. There's lawyers, doctors, all of that as well. So they have a lot of solutions. So yes, to the school districts, we do talk about that. It's very difficult. So because people are unaware of the harms of synthetic turf. So that's kind of the education piece is the first one. So in some school districts, we have made progress, and in others, we have not made progress. So because people don't understand yet about the problems, even with heat, the chemicals, the chain of custody, and all of that. So it's, we've been out there and we're talking about it, but there's more education that needs to happen. We'd love for you to share our videos on synthetic turf, our page, and meet with us to collaborate. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, Suzanne, thank you so much for being here. You're welcome to stay, of course, for the rest of our meeting, but I know you've got probably another meeting to get to.
I do, real soon, and I'm going to just eat some lunch real quick.
All right.
But I am a member of the League of Women Voters, and although I'm not as active as I need to be, I'm very happy to collaborate. And when there are join committees and sit on things and listen and think about the ways that we can collaborate and what is needed. So please just let me know. And I redid my membership today because I was like, I can't remember when the last time was that I paid. So I just reinstated my membership today just in case I didn't have time to look for it. Yeah, I'll hop off now. But thank you guys so much for everything. And thank you, Ruth.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to put you on my email list for this committee. All right.